There is a business in Albania that produces over 2 million pairs of shoes a year for some of the biggest luxury brands in the world, which fits in the Albanian footwear sector that exports over $576 million every single year. All of that built in 10 years by two sisters from Tirana. That company is Prodyn. But here is what makes it interesting. Because how does a country produce at the level of international luxury brands? And yet, Albania gets almost none of the recognition that operation deserves. And by the way, this is not a logistics problem or a quality problem. But this is important because Albania's footwear sector employs over 70,000 people and accounts for nearly a third of everything the country exports. And yet, those people wearing those shoes have no idea they were made in Albania. The industry produces at a level that should command real recognition in European markets. It just hasn't got there yet. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what Prodyn has built and how they can close this gap. What is the origin behind one of Albania's most serious manufacturing businesses? It is 2015 in Tirana. Edleva Lara is sitting in meetings with her sister Irina and German footwear clients. Irina has spent 15 years in the Albanian footwear industry and has built her clientele and relationships. But Edleva keeps on noticing a certain pattern because her clients keep on arriving with tight specifications, clear standards, and zero tolerance for any inconsistencies. However, Albanian factories at the time were consistently missing them. And this created a gap between what the German market was expecting and what Albanian manufacturing was delivering. And when Edleva identified this, she decided to build a bridge. And that was EFA Solutions, founded in 2015, a trading company positioned between German buyers and Albanian manufacturers, as a commercial layer that nobody else had built yet. But within a year, it became clear that without owning the production herself, she cannot own the outcome. So Edleva and Irina made a different call to build it themselves. And that's where Prodyn was founded in October 2016. And within 12 months, they hired over 600 employees. And they made a unique decision compared to the rest of the Albanian footwear industry. They decided to continue their relationships with German clients compared to the rest of the market that went to Italy. Because Italy is the obvious move as the whole market defaults to it. Because Germany meant tighter specification, more demanding for compliance, and less margin for error. And they decided to choose it anyway. And that decision may be the reason that Prodyn is producing for international clients such as Prada. The lesson in the origin is this. Edleva did not wait to be given a better industry. She instead took it into her own hands and built the layer that was missing. And then kept on going deeper until the outcome was hers to control. So let's break down the business model behind Prodyn. Because most people may look at this company and just see a factory. But what they've actually built is a two-company system. Layer 1 is EFA Solution, their commercial brain. It handles client relationships, material sourcing from European suppliers, logistics, and customs. This matters because in most Albanian factories, the same management team will run both production and quality control. But when there is pressure on output, this sometimes leads to quality being compromised. But when you put those things in two separate companies with separate accountabilities, that compromise becomes structurally harder to make. And this architecture is a quality guarantee built into the design. Layer 2 is their service stack, because they are not running basic CMT, which is an abbreviation which means a company just cuts, makes, and trim, where the client themselves provides everything and the factory is just assembling. However, Prodyn themselves also provide product development and sampling, full material sourcing from European suppliers, warehouse automations, and a 3-stage quality control process, allowing for 100% inspection on every single pair, including X-ray checks for metallic fragments, 3,500 different SKUs, over 250 different shoe types. And that range requires an entirely different level of operation compared to what most Albanian factories are running. Layer 3 is their certification stack. ISO 9001 for quality management, ISO 45001 for health and safety, ISO 14001 for environmental management, all three certified by TÜV Nord, which is a German testing body and one of the most recognized in the European markets. And these are not just certifications to put up on a wall. They are the difference between a factory that a European buyer can put on a compliance document and one they cannot. Layer 4 is the one that will tell you what kind of operation this actually is. Because when COVID hit in 2020 and shoe orders collapsed, they weren't waiting around to see what would happen. Within weeks, they retooled for medical PPE. A 15,000 square meter shoe factory, suddenly producing 50,000 gowns a day. And they produced over 10 million gowns for the German medical market. And this isn't just some lucky outcome. This is where you can see this is a true management team that has built something capable of responding to pressure without falling apart. Prodyn has built something that most premium European buyers will find genuinely credible. And that is exactly where this tension lives. Here is the exact reason that Prodyn is not capitalizing on the opportunity that they have to be attracting clients that they have earned the right to work with. Prodyn has the certifications, the institutional backing, and the case studies of their products. A buyer who finds Prodyn cool today will find it hard to identify that Prodyn has all those pieces to bring them together. Because what Prodyn is missing is their conversations around quality. quality, about the type of products they're actually producing and for whom. A factory that produces for luxury brands should make that the centerpiece of everything they say publicly, not just showing their behind-the-scenes operations of their production, but telling the world what their operations are capable of. Because right now, a procurement management at a premium European brand doing supply chain due diligence would not get from their public presence to say that this is a factory we need to be working with. Because the certifications, the EBRD financing, and the proof exists. But the proof is not packaged in a way that buyers actually search for. And here is why that matters more right now than any time in the company's history. The EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive is forcing European brands to prove every single link in their supply chain, with audit, certification, sourcing transparency, and labor standards. And this also matters beyond the business case, because Albania themselves are actively working to EU membership, and being compliant with these directives is part of what it means to be ready for EU membership. Prodyn is not a factory that can just win more clients. It is exactly the kind of business that can demonstrate that Albania belongs in the EU. Brands are already rethinking about Asian supply chains due to lead time reasons, and now they also have a legal reason to look closer to home. Albania right now is 8 weeks to market for European brands, whereas Asia is 12 weeks or more. Prodyn already holds what a compliance officer needs to tick every single box, but only if that compliance officer can find the evidence. And right now, it's not easy for them to do that, because the problem is not what Prodyn can do. The problem is that the market cannot easily read what Prodyn has built. There are two kinds of manufacturers that hit this wall: the ones that stay invisible and compete on price until a cheaper country takes their clients, or the ones that make their operations legible and compete on trust. This is what I would do if I was leading Prodyn's growth strategy. The first thing that I would do would build a buyer evidence layer around the assets that already exist, which is a structured proof package that answers every question a premium buyer asks before they ever make contact. This will include case studies by product category, KPI ranges that a buyer can benchmark against, such as lead times, defect rates, and first pass sample approval rates, and a one-page compliance document built around CSDDD requirements that a legal team will be able to easily drop into an audit file. Because let's think about what that will look like from the buyer's side. They are doing due diligence on nearshore partners. They open Prodyn's materials, and before they even send an email, they can see the TUV Nord certification, EBRD institutional backing, real production KPIs, and a compliance document that their legal team can use immediately. Which means a buyer does not have to go back and forth for months trying to understand this information. And this is what an evidence layer actually unlocks. Because once that proof is packaged, the entire argument changes. Because it's now not just about being competitive and nearby. They have all their compliances and certifications audit ready from day one. That is a procurement argument that needs answering before any conversations about price come up. Because the brands rethinking about Asian supply chains are not looking for cheaper alternatives. They are looking for a partner that their legal team can approve without a second conversation. A partner that is already compliant, already certified, and already operating to the standards those brands are legally required to prove. And Prodyn is already that partner, but the work is making sure the right buyers know that before an email is even sent. With these new EU compliances, the manufacturers that will win in the next decade will not be competing on the lowest price. They are the ones a market can trust before the first order is placed. The bigger lesson is that Albania has been making shoes for the world for over 30 years. And for most of that time, the value, the margin, and the name of the box was captured somewhere else. That is the shape of the industry that Albania inherited. And what Prodyn shows is what it looks like when a company decides to change it from the inside. And not by waiting for the industry to evolve, but by building every layer that they found was missing. Because two sisters who identified a gap in 2015 are now producing for Prada. And that is what happens when you have a resilience to keep on going harder every time you hit a wall. And the only thing sitting between Prodyn and the recognition that operation deserves is making sure that the right people see it. Because the most valuable part about the shoe is not the stitching. It is the trust that is attached to the name of the box. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment what business I should do next. And if you're building in Albania or the diaspora, or want to learn more about the Albanian business ecosystem, please do subscribe.